Hello everyone. I've always heard guys talking about shooting different things out of their 12 gauge, and what really interested me was I've heard some guys talk about shooting rocks. These are just some rocks I gathered, some little pebbles. You don't want them too big because then they'll like get caught in your barrel, and that's not good. So just some like gravel, small gravel, and I'm gonna load up some 12 gauge shells, and just for your references and comparisons and stuff, let's make sure this fits first. Yep. Okay, I cut the tops off. These are just reused casings that I punched the primer out and put a new one in. And so I'm just filling it up with 100 grains of Pyrex. So for everyone's comparison pleasures, I'm just using some sheep's wool. Stick that in there. Yep. And I'm going to be shooting at pumpkins, and I'm just tamping this down, and I would measure out 100 grains of rocks, but I mean 100 grains of rocks is, I don't know, rocks are a lot lighter than lead, so probably what I'm going to do is just fill this up as much as I can. Well, I didn't take many. Wow. Nope, you gotta press it down more. Compress it, I guess. All the roll and stuff. Compress it as much as we can. Fit as many rocks as possible in there. And I've always heard, like, Dave Canterbury talk about shooting rocks out of his, barrel. Just picking them up out of the creek. But I've never actually seen anyone do it. So, hopefully, today will be interesting for you guys and for me. Alright, I'm going to seal this off with some wax, and that'll be it. Alright guys, well, I got the shells in my pocket. Hopefully none of them busted open. Now, that wax and then the cloth is pretty durable on the end. But I'm going to be shooting them out of my Remington 870 Express Super Magnum. And I'm doing that because the barrels for this are, I don't know, they're relatively cheap, but this sucker was meant to handle 3.5-inch slugs and steel shot, and I honestly don't think that rocks are going to do much to the barrel. I mean, if anything, I really don't, because, well, that's what it was meant for, guys. And I instead of shooting the Birdshot like I planned, I'm still going to do that, but I'm also going to shoot these 100 grain Pyrex shells that I hand loaded with steel BBs, 100 grains. So just as a comparison, because I don't want smokeless powder versus Pyrex to be a factor. So I got 2 pumpkins, and we'll start with the BBs. Alright, I'm back at a realistic hunting distance, and there we go. This is the steel BBs versus pumpkin. 1. That's Pyrex for you. Save that shell. Gonna use her again. So this is what those steel BBs did to that pumpkin. Not what I thought they were going to do. But that would take down an animal. It's 100 grains of BBs. They're kind of like little buckshot almost, and spread pattern and everything. So I'm going to shoot this with Birdshot and show you what regular shot looks like. Alright, this is factory Birdshot. Realistic hunting distance, same distance, you know, same thing. Alright. Alright, I must be just grazing it or something, or maybe it's just because of the spread because I'm farther back. But I did take off the stem, so I must be a little high or something. So I'm going to redo that. Actually, I'm going to switch to rocks now. So switch pumpkins too. So alright, shooting rocks. Realistic hunting distance. Hey guys, so here's a pumpkin, got hole there, hole there. I don't know if we captured any, but man, that totally blew that apart. Rocks are definitely a viable shot. I did see some sparks coming out of the barrel, but I think that was honestly the powder, because black powder does that sometimes. Actually, most of the time. That might have just been, you know, I didn't notice it before, but we're gonna move on to some groupings. I got some targets here. Gonna nail them to a tree and take some shots at a reasonable distance. Alright, I stepped back a little bit, and first up is gonna be those steel BBs again. I'm actually a little closer than I was, I think, to begin with, but I don't know, I'll shoot from the same distance on each of them. Alright, safety's off, everybody's clear, holding center. Yeah, I saw some sparks come out of the barrel that time, and that was just BBs, so I know there wasn't, because they're copper lined. The BBs have copper on the outside, so it must have just been the powder. Let's check out the target. Alright, steel BBs, 100 grains of Pyrex. I would have peppered anything. I mean, the spread at that distance is not the greatest. I mean, it spreads out a ton, but you know, in the eastern woodlands, you don't really want that. You don't really want like a tight group, like factory birdshot or anything. So, you know, it's kind of a good thing, because you're not going to be taking shots at something that's, you know, 40, yeah, maybe 40, but not like 80 yards away or something, especially with a shotgun. So let's move on to the rocks, and this will be the last time I'll shoot rocks out of my barrel. It's not hurting it. I looked down it and it looks, you know, pristine. Well, I've been shooting it the past few days and I still gotta clean it, but you know, it looks pristine for what it is. Alright, since I'm the only one in the range, I can walk around with my gun. And hopefully the wind won't blow it too much. I knocked that branch off on the last one, so it's not like it's gonna be, or it's not, I had to find a different place to hang it, but it's not any closer. Alright, rocks. Holding center. Alright. Let's look. That is absolutely gorgeous. You get this out of your 12 gauge if you put rocks in it. Look at this. This is absolutely amazing. I didn't think it would do this. Now the rocks I was using were pretty small. They were like smaller than gravel even. But, you know, they were just like shot. I honestly didn't think that was going to happen. There's no unburned powder in the cartridge. No nothing. This is absolutely amazing that it did this to the target. I mean, look at that. That's torn up. I would use that as a defensive round. I mean, that's crazy. How This is rocks. You don't have to buy these. You can pick them up off the ground, put them in your gun, and kill something with them. That's absolutely amazing. If you were in a survival situation or something, you know, you ran out of shot or something, and you were like 10 miles from your cabin and you saw you had to eat or you were starving to death, you could, you know, pick up some rocks and shoot them, you know, or if you were trying to conserve your resources. And that just amazes me. I mean, look at this compared to the BBs. The BBs have a thicker pattern, but the rocks, I mean, they're uneven. They're not uniform. That's amazing to me. I didn't think they'd do that good. But, you know, versatility of the 12 gauge. I'm gonna do one more factory load and then I'll be done. Alright. This is kind of like our control. It's Birdshot. Factory Birdshot. Same distance, same target. Holding at the same spot. Alright, as you can see, we got a much tighter group with the factory shot. And I think the wad might have hit here, which, you know, that might have been why there's such a huge gaping hole. But I mean, you know, it's really tight, and that was just a regular cheapo, you know, cheap, as inexpensive as you can get target round. If you compare that to my BB's round that I made, I like the spread on this a lot more because, I mean, if you're aiming at a rabbit, you've got like a, let's see, 4-inch circle that you can, 4 inches of leeway. You know, either way, you can be 4 inches off with a factory shell. But if you're shooting one of Chris's rounds, you got a whole lot of leeway. And you know, if you have to eat, then you're not gonna care if there's steel BBs in it. You can just pick them out. If you're absolutely starving to death, this round will save your life because, you know, there's such a big spread pattern. You can just barely, you can be, you know, almost a foot off a rabbit and still kill it, or anything, a squirrel, or you could probably mix this with wax and it would hold together better. And my rocks work too. They have even a broader spread pattern than that, and this is just a modified choke 12 gauge. Let's take the barrel off and look down it. I did shoot black powder out of this, so it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be too clean, but there were no scratches when I looked on it. Not that I could tell. Let's take a look at this. That's just from, the streaks are just from the black powder. And you know, you get streaks anyway. You know, I'm pointing a gun at myself, but you know, it's not a gun, it's a barrel. Obviously there's nothing in this. You know, the receiver's down there. This technically isn't a gun. Alright. So as you can see, there's no like scratches or dings in the barrel. And Dave Canterbury, as usual, you were right. Shooting rocks out of your 12 gauge is definitely a viable option. I don't think it wears on the barrel too much, and you know, it could save your life if you run out of lead or you want to conserve your resources when you're in the woods. You could probably even do like, found this cool piece of quartz when I was out. You could, yeah, you wouldn't want to put that down the barrel. Oh. It's open, obviously. I'm gonna play with the muzzle with it closed, you know, you gotta clean it somehow. But, you know, you could even get a rock that was, you know, small enough and you could technically have a slug, a rock slug, which is something I might have to revisit. But you could do buckshot. The only thing, I was a little bit scared about those rocks getting caught in the barrel, like one on top of the other, and then like scratching or scraping or even like blocking it. So that's why I used really small ones. That can't happen with those. You know, you're not going to get 3 lined up or, you know, 20. But yeah, overall I like it. That was pretty cool. I'm all out of bullets, otherwise I'd finish these pumpkins off. But I'll come down here tomorrow and do it. So, yeah, that was the rock round. You can subscribe if you want, but you know, I like to pass on the knowledge, and I think it's cool what you can do with a 12 gauge. You know, the ultimate survival gun. Not this one, but the ultimate self-reliance gun. I mean, you can't beat it. You can shoot anything out of it. So we laid that to rest. You can, in fact, shoot rocks out of your barrel if you absolutely have to. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it on a daily basis, but you know, it's up to you. Whatever, it's your gun. So I'm not going to, but you know, it's always an option. And barrels are relatively cheap. I mean, cheaper than a new gun, so it's not like you're gonna wreck it. But modified choke, make sure it's modified, or you know, make sure it's not really tight. That allows you to shoot more versatile rounds out of it. But I'm rambling, so catch you in the next one.